This is the Ninja Foodie Max Dual Fryer 9.5 litre with probe function thing, and I'm going to tell you what I think about it. I've been using it now for about 2 months, and I think I've tried just about everything it can do, so I'll let you know whether it's good or not, if it's worth purchase, and if it's right for your kitchen. Short answer, I like this a lot, but I think you want a different model. Okay, let's back up a little bit. So I was in the market for a new air fryer. I've used a Tefal ActiFryer for about 10 years. Great little product, but the fact that it's got that circular drum is quite annoying. I wanted the drawers, the rectangular ones that all the modern air fryers have. I was initially resistant to try Ninja as a brand because it felt like they just popped up out of nowhere and they're doing 30 million different appliances, and I thought, surely if they're doing loads of different appliances, they can't be that good at it. They're not specialists. But I read and watched review after review, and it kept coming back to this. Now, I should add, I'm not sponsored by them. I did get in touch with them, and they said, hey, thanks for your email. Bye. So whatever. After reading reviews, I did settle on this, and I was debating between 3 different models. I debated between this one, the same model, but without the probe function, and the other model that has the larger tray instead of 2 separate trays. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Obviously, I've settled on this model here. Let's see what it's like when it arrives. Here's an unboxing of me unpacking it when it first arrives. So there's not a lot of extras, bonuses, gadgets you get in the box. You've just got your drawers, your crisper trays inside, and a couple of books. That's it. That's all you've got. That's pretty much all you need, though. There's no special spatulas. There's no bonus accessories. I'm going to dive straight into the build quality. So the front panel is very nice. It's all a little bit plasticky. The drawers themselves have a plastic front, but these tins, I'm going to call them, are some sort of treated metal, as are these. I think a powder coated type metal. I don't know. These themselves feel quite good, though I will say the finish on the sides and on the bottom, it's not amazing. It's sort of, this silver thing is going to peel off, I think, eventually. This silver wrap that they have on the handle, and it's not very pleasant to hold here because it's not joined particularly well. Speaking of joins, again here, this trim here looks great, but it's really flimsy and plasticky, and I've got a feeling that's going to snap off at some point. Also, when you look down at it and you look at the joins, it's not machine tooled particularly well. You can see slight gaps around the edge. This is not the worst thing in the world. It doesn't affect it moving, but if you're fastidious about detail, you should note that it's got those kind of tooling issues. So it's kind of plasticky, and I think underworked, underdeveloped. I'm really annoyed by the plug as well. It just kind of flops about there. It has nowhere to wind it, nowhere to store it. You can't store it underneath. You can't attach it anywhere. So I find that a bit annoying. However, it must be said, I store mine away. I imagine most people will keep theirs on the counter, but I pack mine away in a cupboard and then get it out again when I need it, which is, at the moment, quite a lot while I'm testing it for this video. What about dimensions? Well, I'll pop the dimensions up on the screen there, just as I've measured them, and that will tell you whether it will fit on your counter. You should note, however, it has vents on both sides that need space for stuff to happen, both to allow air to escape, but also it's going to steam up anything that's placed next to, so you can't wedge it into a corner. It also has some vents on the back, which again, you need to give it some space. Ninja themselves say 15 centimeters, so, but that's obviously while it's running. You don't need to be using it all the time, but just whilst it's running, you need that gap so that the air can come out. All right, let's look at the functions. This particular one has 6 main functions, max crisp down to dehydrate, with a couple of other things that you can adjust along the way. Essentially, these are presets for the temperature and the fan speed, starting with the hottest and fastest, therefore noisiest fan up the top end at max crisp, and the slowest, lowest, quietest down at dehydrate. Max crisp, I think, defaults at 240 degrees C, and the fan sounds like a turbine. Meanwhile, down at dehydrate, it's something like 60 degrees, and the timer is set for 3 hours, I think, something like that. And it's whisper quiet. And then you get varying ways in between. So essentially, when you're picking these different programs, they're just codes for how fast is the fan. You can adjust each one individually. They're sort of presets. And after having a play around with it, I don't personally feel the need to do anything other than these presets. And I imagine most people will sit in this middle chunk here of air fry and roast, but that's all it's doing. How does it actually work? If you get the camera up inside it, you can see a heating element at the top. So it's like a grill, right? A grill or broiler, if you're in America, pummeling heat down from above, and you're adjusting the temperature. Then the fans pick up that heat and move it around, and that's why it sits on those trays, so the air can circulate underneath it, hence air fryer. As I said, you can override both the temperature and the times that it suggests for you, no problem at all. Just press the arrows while it's cooking. You can cook with both drawers independently. You can cook with drawer 1 and not use drawer 2, or vice versa, though you'd be insane if you just cook with drawer 2 and not drawer 1. Who would do that? You can also have syncing and matching functions. What that means is program something into drawer 1, press match, and it will copy the functions over to drawer 2. With sync, you can set things to finish at a different time. It takes a bit more thinking, but if you've got something finishing in 20 minutes and something else that only takes 10, you can tell it to sync up, and it will start the second one in 10 minutes time, so they both finish at the same time. They are pretty good ideas, though it does take a bit of memory to use them, is the only thing. If you're the kind of set and forget and wander away and do something cook, those features will be great for you. I tend to be hovering around the kitchen while I'm doing this, so it's not such a big deal for me. The function unique to this particular model of air fryer is the probe. Tucks away in the side of the drawer, and you affix it into the machine, and then probe into the thing that you want to cook. Now, I've tried this a bunch of times, and if you've ever watched any videos on this channel, many times I talk about how useful a meat thermometer or probe is, and I recommend it for everyone. So this comes with a built-in probe whereby you can tell it what type of thing you're cooking, what temperature you eventually want it to hit, and the probe will keep monitoring it and turn off the air fryer when it hits the right temperature. I've cooked beef steak in it, I've cooked lamb steak in it, and both turned out really good. You do miss the char effect you get on a frying pan, but you can't argue that it's been cooked perfectly internally. I also cooked a dessert with it. A good lemon tart, according to Heston, has to be set to a very specific temperature, so I cooked a small lemon tart in it, and it came out absolutely fantastic. It got it exactly right. It's a little bit more fiddly to use, but I thought it was a great test of the device itself. I have, of course, cooked chips in it, because, you know, that's what most people buy an air fryer for. If you're just buying it to cook brown food, as I call it, stuff in the freezer, which I've got no problem with, by the way. They're the backbone of many meals, and sometimes they're the entire meal on really bad days, whether it's chicken nuggets, whether it's chips, scampi, all those things that come in breadcrumbs and come out the same colour and end up getting dipped in ketchup and mayo. It cooks those fantastically. And in fact, not that your doctor would recommend you do this, I find if you splash a little oil onto oven chips before you shake them often during cooking, you'll get really fantastic results with frozen chips. You'll also probably find it cooks things really fast, faster than you used to. I often get chips done in about 15 minutes, nuggets done in about 10 minutes. If you factor in the time taken to turn on your oven and get it to the right temperature so it starts cooking properly, you're looking at 20 to 30 minutes depending on the product. Taking 10 to 15 is a big boost in my book. I've cooked whole chicken breasts in here. Again, perfectly doable and well worth it. I've cooked fish in here. Cooks fish beautifully because it gets hot really quickly and colours the outside and makes sure the inside isn't too overdone. For a real test of all the things I've done in it, I'd recommend you watch my video where I cook all of Jamie Oliver's air fryer meals in this very device, and you can see how well it fared with all those different types of dishes that I made, from desserts to bakes to scones, meat, vegetables, fish. It's all in there. So some of the things I would pick up on. The price. I think the retail price is about £225. It's often around £200. and I hovered around waiting for it to get to 180 before I purchased it. If you check the price, you've got various price trackers, and you can wait for the price that's right for you. I've personally really enjoyed using my air fryer. It comes out nearly every day to support some part of the cooking. Perhaps not to cook the whole meal, but maybe it's easier to cook the protein in it. Maybe it's easier to roast some of the vegetables in it, that sort of thing. But the air fryer has really enabled me to do lots of interesting things quickly, and freeing up obviously the oven and the hob so I can get on with other stuff. If you haven't done so already, I would recommend you invest in some silicone or rubber kitchen gadgets, silicone tongs, a silicone spatula, so that you can get things out without damaging that coating, because once that coating starts to go, you'll lose that non-stick and it will be horrendous to clean. Speaking of cleaning, it does say that you can dishwash these. I personally haven't. It does say you can dishwash it, but the life of the product will be longer if you don't. So I kind of take that as, I'm not going to. That said, my guess would be dishwash these, no problem. They have that very sleek, slippery feel. I'm sure they will dishwash up beautifully. And then I just chuck some hot water from the tap in there and then just wipe it out. Because of the kind of non-stick metal, it cleans up really easily, really quickly. And one more thing, just for general day-to-day use. Obviously, you're going to be opening the drawer, and then you need to put that down somewhere. You'll have to know yourself whether your counter can take that extremely hot metal base straight on the counter. If yours can take that, wonderful. If you would take a frying pan off the hob and put it straight on your work surface, then you'll be okay with this. I don't want to do that, to try and preserve the length, the life of my kitchen countertops. So I also got a couple of cork trivets, and I just pop these down when I need to put them to one side while I'm stirring or whatever. And one more stupid thing that only I do is quite often for serving, for some reason, I will tip this up to tip all the bits out, and with it comes a little puddle of oil. I've got to stop doing that, and that's why you need those silicone gadgets, tongs, spatula, as appropriate. I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it. However, there is a caveat, there is a touch. I've really enjoyed using the probe function, but that's me. The majority of normal humans, that's probably you out there, won't be interested in that probe function. So they do a model like this that does not have the probe. You don't need it. You don't need it. I like it, and if you like that sort of thing, you will too. But the probe isn't essential. So there's a model slightly cheaper than this one because it doesn't have that probe function. And they also do one that is, as far as I can tell, and from other reviews I've read, is identical, except instead of two separate trays, they've got one larger tray. I've managed to fit a whole chicken in one of these baskets, but it depends what you're cooking. I often have two separate things, but I don't cook for lots of people very often. You may find it more advantageous to have the one larger tray where you can cook a lot of one thing, or you don't mind them being in the same tray at the same time. So that's the only call I would make. That comes down to thinking about, what am I actually going to cook in this, and would it be better to have one large tray or two separate trays? I'm perfectly happy with two separate. I think it's really handy to have two things going on at once and to be able to cook like that. It's really good. But now over to you. If you've got any questions about this air fryer, please pop them down in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. If that review's been of use to you, please hit the subscribe button, hit like, and if you know someone is just trying to figure out which air fryer to buy, hit the share button, send it to them in a message and see what they think. Happy to answer questions down below. And with that, I'll catch you next time.